welcome to today's class, everybody. I'm super excited to be here with you guys. My name is McKenna Blanthorn, and we're just letting everybody go ahead and trickle in, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. This project is super fun. I also think it's fairly easy. I think it's fairly beginner friendly. I wanted to do something that was really festive and Valentine's Day, but also something that all of you guys could do. So we are going to be using a silhouette machine today. I know some of you guys are probably new to silhouette. Some of you might not have a silhouette machine, but I hope this class convinces you that you need one because they're awesome. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to go over our supplies list. Right here, you can see this cute cupcake. This is what we're making today. I am going to be using different papers since I just use scraps to make this project. So whatever paper you have lying around is perfect for this project, and we're going to have a super fun time making it. I did not make the cupcake, disclaimer. It's super beautiful, but I did not make it. I wish I was talented in baking along with crafting, but baking is not one of my strong suits at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and go over the supplies list with you. So I have that pulled up on my computer. And like I said, it's a pretty standard supplies list. I know a piece of feedback that we were getting with our classes was we do these super awesome classes, but they're not necessarily things that people have just laying around the house. You have to go and buy them or go and buy all the different supplies. And then when you're making one project, that can be super expensive. So what I tried to do with this project was use things that you have laying around your house. If you're a crafter, you probably have craft paper that you can create this project with. So the few things that we're going to be using are, first off, the Silhouette portrait machine. So this is the portrait machine. I'm just going to turn it so you can see it a little bit better. And this is one of our newer machines here at Silhouette. It's our smaller machine. If you are familiar with Silhouette and you've seen a Silhouette machine before, you've probably seen the Cameo because that's kind of our flagship machine or our more popular machine. But the portrait is amazing. It's honestly my favorite. I have a Cameo at home, but when I come into the office, I love to grab the portrait because it's quick and it's easy and it doesn't take up as much space. And most of the time I'm cutting on letter paper anyway. So I love to just pull out the portrait. So I think it's super awesome. You can pick these up at almost all of your local Michaels stores. If not in the store, you can definitely order it online. And it's always available. It's super awesome. We love it. So that's the machine we're going to be using today. If you aren't using the portrait machine, if you're using a Cameo, you can just make your cupcake liner and topper bigger. I'm maxing out the size on the portrait. So that's what I'm doing today. But if you're using a Cameo, you can completely do this project. Even if you're using another cutting machine, this project is doable also. So that's the portrait. And then I have some assorted cardstocks and craft papers up here. Like I told you, I use scraps for this project, so I don't have these exact pieces. But I thought these ones were different. I couldn't find any super Valentine's paper where I was looking, but I thought these could be like a fun, trendy Valentine's with the florals and the pinks and the reds. So it's a little bit different, but I think it'll turn out really cute. And then I have double-sided tape. As far as adhesive goes, you can use whatever kind of adhesive you want. I have double-sided tape, and I also grabbed some glue dots, and I'm using Pop-In Dots. I forgot to put the Pop-In Dots on the supplies list, so that's my bad. I apologize. But this project is totally doable without the Pop-In Dots. If we have time, I'll even show you a way to give your cupcake that 3D Pop-In Dot effect with paper, since I forgot to put it on the list. So those are the things that we're going to be using. Aside from that, you're going to need toothpicks. If you have larger food picks, you can use those. For the original, I ended up using a larger food pick. But today I just had toothpicks laying around, so that's what I'm going to use. And then I have some more beautiful cupcakes up here. And like I said, I did not make them, but they're really cute. So it still counts as being homemade if you craft the wrapper and the topper, right? So we're going to go ahead and get started in our software where we are going to make our design. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. Oh, I also want to mention, if you have any questions, just go ahead and drop them in the chat. And I'll be reading the chat as I go. And we also have someone here that's going to be reading the questions out loud to me. So if you have any questions about Silhouette in general, about the project, about anything that we're doing today, just go ahead and drop them in there. So, oh, somebody already asked, is there a way that I can view this later? I got called into work. Jamie, we're sad to see you go, but yes, you can watch this later. It's being recorded and it's going to be put on Michael's YouTube channel. They usually update or upload it within 24 hours, 48 hours, something like that. So have no fear if you have to pop out, you still can watch the end of the class. So I'm going to start my screen share right now. And then I'm going to pull up my web browser. So this is the photo of what we're making of the cupcakes when I made them last time. And then we're going to download our designs first in the Silhouette Design Store. So I'm just going to type silhouettedesignstore.com. As you can see, it just pops up for me because I go there a lot. Sorry, I'm just going to move my little Zoom window out of the way, even though you guys can't see it. Okay, so awesome. So we are in the Silhouette Design Store. And if you're new to Silhouette and you aren't familiar with the design store, it's amazing. It has thousands of designs and there's free designs that we switch out every single week. There's sales that we put on. Right now we're having a 3D sale, which is all kinds of 3D paper craft. So boxes, just little decorations, little houses. So all of those are 30% off until February 2nd, if you want to check those out. I have already started making some Valentine's cards for my family and my friends, and I think that this sale is a good opportunity to go and grab some. And one thing that I love about the Silhouette Design Store is even if you aren't a Silhouette user, if you use another type of cutting machine, you can also buy design files from us as an SVG and then import it to your software that you're using. So even if you're not a Silhouette user, which a lot of the time our people on these Michael's classes aren't Silhouette users, this is a super awesome introduction to Silhouette. So the way that we're going to find these designs is over here on the description. You can see that they are listed over here, and you can there's a hyperlink to them. So if you have the class pulled up, you can just click these and they'll pull up. We're using two different designs. So this is the first design, and then we have another one. But I want to show you how to navigate to them in case you're watching this class later on and you're not sure where to find it. So the first design that we're going to be using is 1900. So I would just come up here and I would type 1900. So I'm just going to repeat that one more time in case you're watching this later on YouTube, just so you can make sure you get it right. So it's 1900. And you're just going to click on it. I've already downloaded it, or I've already bought it because I have prepared this class. But if you haven't downloaded it, this is going to be a blue shopping cart right here, and then it's going to be a blue arrow, and that's going to take you to your shopping cart where you can download it. The Silhouette Design Store has actually made these two designs free for the next 5 days. So if you're in this class today and you're joining us, make sure that you go and download these, even if you're not making the actual file right now, because then they'll be free and you won't have to buy them. So go ahead and click the blue shopping cart, click the arrow, or you can also press this express button if you're already logged into your Silhouette Design Store account, and that will add it. And then the other design that we're going to be using is 129353. So I'm just going to go ahead and type that in, 129353. Hopefully I remembered it right. Okay, perfect. So this is the cupcake scalloped wrapper. I think it's super cute. As you can see, this one is plain. I'm going to show you how I added the hearts on, which is a totally optional step. You don't have to do that part. It kind of takes it to the next level. I would say if you're just doing strict beginner, don't add the hearts. Just kind of cut out the design like it is right here. But if you want to do an impressive step and something that's different, go ahead and add the hearts, and I'll show you how to do that later. So you're going to click the blue shopping cart, click the arrow, and then we have our designs from the Silhouette Design Store. Make sure you go to your cart up here and actually check out. Sorry, I have a lot of things in my cart. Since I do, I'm going to show you guys how I check out. So after I check out right here. And then you're going to need to type your password. I have my password saved, and then I just click submit. So that's how you check out in the design store if you're new to it. Make sure you do that step. You don't just add it to your cart. So I'm going to go ahead and close the window now, and then we're going to jump into our Silhouette Studio. Okay, so like I said, this project, I designed it in the idea that I was going to be teaching it to people that were new to Silhouette, because I'm actually fairly new to Silhouette. I've only worked here for about 6 months, and before I worked here, I'd had experience with other cutting machines, but not a Silhouette before, and I love it. I would never go back to any of the other ones that I'd used before. The software is so amazing. There's so many things you can do. It kind of can be overwhelming when you're starting out, but I'm going to teach you a few little helpful tricks today and tools that I think are really easy that you can achieve super awesome projects with. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're just going to go from ground zero. I'm going to create a new document and everything. So to create a new document, I'm going to go File and then New. And as you can see, I'm using the portrait mat today. And the way I know that it's set up correctly is it's a rectangle, this mat. If I was using a Cameo, it would look like this. But like I said, I'm using the portrait. So luckily it pulled up correctly. If yours didn't pull up correctly, you would just switch to whichever machine you're using. And then I am actually going to be, I'm going to be using the portrait mat also. And then for my paper, I think my paper is 12 inches long. Yes, it is. So I'm using 12 by 12 paper. So I'm actually going to change my height to 12. But one thing that's super convenient about the portrait is you can totally just use letter size paper. So if you're making stickers, I know a lot of people love it for making stickers. And print and cut things, you can just go ahead and, sorry, I lost my train of thought for a sec. Just go ahead and use a letter size paper, but we're gonna just cut ours down with a little paper trimmer and it'll be perfect. So the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna go up to our library after we have our mat set up. I do want to make sure there's not any questions about setting up the mat to this point or like setting up your new document. So if you have a question, go ahead and drop it in real quick and then we'll just move on. So it doesn't look like we have any questions. So let's go to the library. It's this tab over here, the second from the right corner. And I have a lot of designs in here, as you guys can see. I also just checked out all of those really cute designs that were like 20 different designs, so they're all loading right now. So when you open your library, it should automatically load for you. If it doesn't for some reason, all you need to do is come over, sorry, my little zoom icon is right over where I need to be. Okay, you just need to come down to this little sync button down here and press sync. And then all of your cute little designs are going to show up. And like I said, I have so many designs. So rather than scrolling and searching through all of them, I just like to come up to my search bar up here and type in my designs. So I know that I'm doing the cupcake wrapper. So I'm just going to type cupcake and it shows up right here, the scallop cupcake. And I am just going to double click that to put it into my file. We are going to size it up. But this is what it looks like originally. And then our other file is the flower heart. And I think I looked at this one the other day and it was just called heart. Yes, okay. So it's just called heart. If you typed in flower, which I actually did the other day when I was practicing for this class, I obviously have a lot of flowers and it didn't pull up because that's not what it was named. So if you don't get it the first time, just try again with another keyword that you can think of. And then I'm going to double click that and put it in. Okay, perfect. So as you can see, this flower heart is pretty big for our cupcake topper. I'm actually going to start with the cupcake wrapper because that is the part that's a little bit more like a little bit next level. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate this first so I can max out the size and make it as big as I want. My cupcakes that I have are fairly large cupcakes. I wish I could tell you that I have a good way for you to know how big you should make your wrapper by looking at your cupcakes, like by measuring the circumference, because this obviously folds like in a circle, and then you're going to tape it closed. And I tried a bunch of different things, and I couldn't come up with a way to figure out a great way to know how big to make this. One thing that I will say though is you can always cut with scissors if it's too big, or you can always just fold it over more on these little lines right here, which I like about the scalloped edge because it still makes it look really professional and you can cut it straight. So I'm just gonna go ahead and max mine out size-wise. I don't think it'll be too big or anything. I think it'll be I think it'll work fine. But like I said, these are, new cupcakes. I didn't make them. I don't know how big they are, but we're just going to go ahead and kind of guess and check. So the next thing that I'm going to do, I know I showed you guys that my cupcake wrapper that I made had heart cutouts on top, and then I cut two. I cut one on the inside, and then I cut some cutouts on the top. So this is our inside piece. And I'm just going to go ahead and hold the Alt key on my keyboard and drag, and that's going to duplicate it. If you can't figure that out because it's a little bit tricky, I think it's an awesome tip. It's probably the tip I use most in Silhouette Studio. You can always just do Control-C and Control-V to copy and paste, or you can right-click and do copy, and then right-click and do paste. So those are 3 different ways that you can duplicate your item in Silhouette Studio, but I think holding down the Alt key and dragging is the easiest way. So now what we need to do is add our hearts. So let's go ahead and just change the color to this so I know that it's the inside. Let's just make it purple just so I know it's a different color. And then we're going to add these hearts to our cupcake wrapper. So one thing that I noticed, so the other day I was over at my mom's house and she's in the class today with us. And she loves her silhouette and she's actually learning as well. We just got her a silhouette for her birthday in October. And so she loves to watch these classes, but it's a little bit hard for her to follow along with the class. So she got a little one-on-one tutoring. Sorry to everybody else, but I downloaded the designs with her before the class. And then I kind of pulled up the studio for her and showed her how to set things up and things like that. And one thing that we noticed that was really hard about this heart flower design is that it's just an outline right now. So if I click here, I can't click and move it very easily. So a solution that we realized, and I didn't know this before, this was something that I also learned, is if you add a fill color to it, then you can just click it in the middle and move it rather than having to click the outline. Because when it's empty, it's just empty space. It's kind of like a cookie cutter, I would say. Like this reminds me of a cookie cutter. If you pick up like the inside of the cookie cutter, it's empty. So you have to pick up the edges, which when you're on a laptop or a little mouse pad can actually be pretty hard. So that was one thing that we realized the solution to the problem was to go ahead and fill it with a color. So I just went ahead and rotated this 90 degrees, and then I'm gonna go ahead and shrink this down. Just so it fits nicely in my cupcake wrapper. You can make it as big or as small as you want. I think this part is totally up to your artistic, creative ability. I'm just holding down Alt once again to duplicate it, and I'm just going to do as many hearts as I want. One thing I do want to mention, don't put any hearts on this section or this section because you're going to be folding them over anyway. To close your cupcake wrapper. So I always leave the last 2 blank, and then I am not doing this in any precise way. There is probably a tool here in Silhouette Studio that would space these out on this cupcake wrapper evenly and make them all line up perfectly. I know the Align tool does some of that, but I'm not really worried about it because if somebody is looking at one side of your cupcake, they're probably not going to turn it around 360 degrees and make sure all of your hearts line up exactly. And I think it makes it kind of cute and it adds like a homemade sense to it if it's not perfect, right? Imperfectly perfect, at least. Okay, so I am just going to rotate that real quick. And I think that looks pretty good. I think that it is not perfectly lined up, like I said, but I think it's pretty close. So I'm gonna stop my screen share while we get our paper ready. And I actually want to do an interactive thing. Like I told you, I'm not making this exact one. So I have a bunch of papers laid out here, and I want you guys to help me pick which papers we're going to use. So maybe just like the first few that we put in here, the first few people to put in their request are going to get to pick. So we have this like floral pattern, the polka dots, this lines pattern, stripes, scallops, flowers, or leaves. So we have 2 votes for polka dot, 1 for lines. Okay, polka dots it looks like. Sweet. I like you guys' choice. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this polka dot piece of paper so it fits. And like I said, I'm using the portrait mat, which is smaller than the 12 by 12 piece of paper. If you were using a Cameo, you could just load this right on the Cameo mat. And I feel like when I'm measuring something, I always measure twice, but I always measure wrong. I cut it and it's wrong. So one tip that I have, if you're using a 12 by 12 piece of paper on a mat, is to just line up your piece of paper on top of your mat and then go ahead and add a little tick mark where the size ends. And then go ahead and take your cutter. Oh, whoops, my pencil's running away. And then you're just going to put that tick mark at the top. When you're using one of these paper cutters, make sure that this is flushed all the way to the top so that it cuts straight. And then I just put my tick mark in line with the little wire and I cut it. Perfect. And then we're going to load it onto the mat. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and I'll load this into the portrait first. So one thing that I always mention when I teach with the portrait is don't load it on this first tick mark, load it on the second tick mark. That's where you're supposed to line your mat up with. Honestly, I'm not sure why there's another tick mark there because my first instinct when I was using this was to use that tick mark and it doesn't cut if you put it there. So make sure to load it on the second one. And then I'm going to start my screen share one more time with you guys. And we're going to go into the send panel. So I saw somebody asked how we got the hearts on top. So all we did was we just placed them on top, but they're actually going to be cutouts. And then we're going to put another piece of paper behind it. So hopefully that makes sense and that clears up that question. So it looks like our portrait is connected down here. It says that the machine is ready to go. And then our design is also ready to go because everything's outlined in red. If something wasn't outlined in red, you would want to go and get that, like click it and then click cut because that is how you know what's going to cut, anything that's in red. So I always use the Cardstock textured heavy when I'm using Cardstock. If you're new to Silhouette, I also want to explain that we have an auto blade, which makes it really easy. All of these materials are like presets kind of, and there's hundreds of them. There's so many. And if you select that, your blade should adjust accordingly to the setting that we've tested here at Silhouette headquarters and we find to be the best. If it doesn't, you can always bump up your number right here or your force. I don't ever bump up the speed. I just always do the speed that it recommends. You can always do 2 passes also if you are a little bit worried or if your blade's getting a little bit dull. I think this blade's pretty new, so I'm just going to do the regular cut setting. And then I'm just going to go ahead and send it to cut. So I'm just going to press send. And then I will stop sharing so you guys can watch it cut. All right, so, okay, so awesome. Lisa, who asked about the hearts, said that her hearts went behind the wrapper, not on top. So what you need to do, Lisa, is you just need to select your hearts And then you can either do Shift, Command, right bracket is the keyboard shortcut, or you can just bring it to front. And I will demonstrate that as soon as this is done cutting, because that's a really good question. Okay, if anybody else has any questions, go ahead and drop it in the chat. Okay, Jose asked, what is the software called where you made the figure? This software is Silhouette Studio. It is completely free when you buy a Silhouette machine. Well, anybody can download it actually. It's free. And you can always like upgrade to different more features, but I'm using all free features today. So it's called Silhouette Studio, and you can download it on Silhouette's website, which is silhouetteamerica.com. Okay, so this just finished cutting, and I'm just gonna double check it. It looks like it cut perfectly. So I'm gonna go ahead and unload it. And then, yes. Okay, so we have a question about my mat is new, everything sticks to it. How can I avoid that? So as you can see, I also ran into that problem because my mat also has some things stuck to it. And I have found a few different tips to get it a little bit more soiled. Sometimes I like to take a dish towel and just dab it a little bit, or on my jeans, and just, I guess I'm in a dress today, but just kind of like go on the fabric, and that will take some of the stick away. But I actually don't love to soil my mats because then they don't last as long, obviously. So my biggest tip for you, if you have a new sticky mat, and I do this all the time, no matter how sticky my mat is or not, I flip it over and then I peel the design away from the mat. I don't peel the mat, or I don't flip it over and do the opposite. Because if I do that, I'll show you with the heart. Because this mat's still pretty sticky, it totally curves the heart, or it makes it stick to it. So in my experience, it's much easier to peel the design away from the mat when you flip it over than to have the mat facing upwards and to have it curl and stick. So this is my cupcake wrapper. It actually seems fairly big, which is okay. Because my cupcakes are pretty big, like I said. So I'm just going to go ahead and bring one of my cupcakes over. I'll bring the biggest one and test the size. So like I said, this is way too big because I maxed out the size. But you can always just make a really, really big cupcake wrapper, which is probably what I'm going to do just for sake of time in the class, because I think it's cute when it goes on top of it. Or you can size it down and recut it. But if you don't want to use more materials and you don't want to recut it, that's just a tip that you can do. All right, so somebody said, what's the paper material that you're using? This is just cardstock, just standard craft paper. So also somebody asked, is it free to anyone, or do you need a code to download the software? It's totally free for everybody. And also these designs are totally free for everybody for 5 days. So make sure you download it within 5 days. So I'm going to share my screen again and pull up the software. And then I just want to show what Lisa was saying. So as you can see, I'll just put all of these hearts behind so we can all get a visual of the problem that she's having. So Lisa probably dragged her hearts over and they were way too, they disappeared. They disappeared behind the wrapper. And this is such an easy fix. All you have to do is select the wrapper and then click bring to back, or send to back. It's up here. So you click that and then it brings your hearts to the front. So I hope that answered your question now, Lisa. So we're going to go ahead and move this piece off. So I'm going to select it by drawing a rectangle, clicking and dragging, drawing a rectangle over all my pieces. This is also one of my favorite Silhouette tips because you don't have to click each individual piece and drag it off, and you don't want it to move if you're going to cut more than one. So go ahead and just select all of your pieces and drag it off. And then we're going to cut the inside piece. And since we did the polka dots, I let you guys pick the polka dots, but I want to do one that has plenty of contrast for under the polka dots. So I'm going to give you two options. I'm going to say that we can do this floral piece or this lines piece. So in the chat, go ahead and let me know which one you guys think. Oh, whoops. Got to stop sharing my screen. So these are our two options. Okay, looks like floral. Okay, let's do the floral. I think that'll be cute. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same mat prep tip to cut it. Okay. Okay, and then I'm going to save this scrap and our polka dot scrap because we could still use it for our topper if we want to. The mat disappeared on me because it's clear. I lost it on the table. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and load the mat again. And then I'm not going to screen share this time because it's exactly the same as last time. You're not going to change your settings or anything. You're just going to go to your software and then the send panel and press send. Oh, yes. Okay. So here at Silhouette, we actually have 3 different kinds of mats. I'm using the standard, which is great for cardstock, but we have also a strong tack mat and a light tack mat. And they're actually all in stock right now, which is super awesome. So if you're looking for some mats and you've been waiting for some mats, you can get those right now. So the strong tack mat is awesome for cutting fabric, foam, chipboard, even leather, things like that. Materials that are thicker and might require a little bit more like stick and hold when you're cutting it. And then the light tack mat is perfect if you're using craft foam, or sorry, not craft foam, vellum or copy paper, just like printer paper. Because if you're using this, I think that's actually what happened on my mat right here, was I was using a copy paper and it just stuck to the mat. So if you're using that, go ahead and use the light tack mat. And like I said, you can get all of those on our website. And I believe at Michael's also, they have the mats in stock. So that is a tip for different materials and different projects that you're making. And I think that's a really good contrast. I don't know about you guys, but I think it's cute. So we're going to go ahead and leave that. And now we're going to go into our software to make our heart flower. And I think we're doing perfect on time. I think it'll be awesome. So I need to start my screen share again. Okay. And always you can keep asking questions in the comments and we will get to those. Okay, so now we have our flower over here and it is huge. It's 4.44 inches right now. And that is really big for a cupcake topper, even with my big cupcake and my big wrapper. So I'm going to go ahead and shrink that down. When I made the last one, I made it about 3 inches, which is also a little bit big, but I thought it turned out cute. So I'm going to make it 3 inches. And then, like I said, it's really hard to click the inside because you can't drag it at this point. So I'm just going to add a color to each of those, a different color. Oh, I guess these might be, yeah, there we go. Okay, and you can do any color since we're doing patterned paper. If you were using like colored paper, it's a good tip to always make your actual pieces, what color you're cutting them, so you don't cut the wrong color, but we don't have too many pieces, so we're good. And one thing I want to show you guys is that if you're making a bunch of cupcake toppers, I want to show you how to fill your whole mat so that you use all of the paper that you can. So as I mentioned earlier, you hold down the Alt key and that little plus appears, and then you just drag it. And it looks like I'm going to be able to fit 2 on each row. So I'm going to be able to fit 6 on each page, I think. You could always make it a little bit smaller too, so you could fit another one here and down here. So just make sure it's not touching this red line out here. That's the cut line, the cut border, and you don't want it to touch on that line. So this is our flower, and we're going to send that. So I'm going to stop my screen share. And let's see, I'm actually going to grab another piece of our floral paper. I guess I didn't realize the one thing with you guys choosing which papers we used was I didn't know which ones to have more than one out of. So I'm just gonna put that back there. If you weren't making a bunch of pieces, like I'm cutting 6 just to show you how, I could totally just use my scrap from the other paper. Okay, so I'm just going to cut that on my line. Oh, I didn't cut it all the way through. Okay, there we go. Load it onto the mat. I feel like this class is a little bit repetitive because it's just loading things onto the mat, cutting it, loading it onto the mat and cutting it, but I think it's a super valuable class. So somebody asked what is the weight for the cardstock. I think it's 80 pounds, I want to say. Yep, 80 pound cardstock. I think most cardstock is 80 pound. So I'm just going to go ahead to my send panel and send this. And then, so somebody asked, why do you fill color? Isn't the color determined by which design of paper you choose? It is, like I mentioned. The only reason I put the color in, and it looks like Nagham answered this question, was to be able to move the design easier in the Silhouette Studio. Because I'm on a laptop. If you're on a computer, it might be easier to move it. But if you're on a laptop, it is a lot easier for me to just fill the color so then I can click it. All right, and then while this is cutting, I figure that we can assemble our wrapper. So what I'm gonna do is I just have double-sided tape, but like I said, you can use any type of adhesive that you want. And I'm just putting my double-sided tape between my hearts. I flipped it over and I'm just putting it in between these pieces. I like double-sided tape because it's quick. I was actually talking to one of our other Silhouette teachers that we have, Kelly Wayment, the other day. I was emailing her about Silhouette tips, and she gave a super awesome tip that I think we're going to share on our social media. But she said that when you're doing a project, it's a good idea to actually use a combination of liquid glue and double-sided tape, because then it gives it, the double-sided tape gives it that instant hold, but the liquid glue will keep it sticky forever, which I thought it was a really good tip. So I think Kelly is actually here today in the class. So thanks for the tip, Kelly. Today we're not doing that because I figure you're going to maybe not reuse your cupcake toppers, or if you do, I think they'll be plenty sticky enough. But if you're making like Christmas decorations or Valentine's decor that you want to use year and year again, it's a really good tip. Okay, and I added these glue dots to the scallops because I thought they were like the perfect size. And then I'm just going to go ahead and lay this on top. And if you don't line it up perfectly, it's totally okay. Just gives it character, that imperfectly perfect. So I'm just going to peel off my paper. And I think these are also going to be a little bit big cupcake toppers. They're bigger than the originals that we made, but they'll be cute because our wrapper is really big too. So like I said, I didn't have a good way for you to gauge how big to make your items. So I cut more than one of these. We are going to be doing them back to back. So since I didn't want the back side to just be white, so we're going to be decorating both sides, which doubles the amount of pieces that you need. But we're not going to cut all of the pieces for the other ones. I showed you how to fill up your sheet. So if you want to do that for all of your pieces, you can, but for the rest of the class, I'm just going to cut 1 or 2 pieces of each one. or I guess 2 pieces since we're doing both sides. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go back in our software. I'm going to screen share and then pull up our software. And we are going to do the circles next. So I'm just going to do 2 circles just for the sake of time. So we make sure that we have enough time to assemble it. So let's see. For our circle, I think I am going to use our scraps left over from our polka dots. I think that'll be a cute little accent for it. So this is, I'm going to show you guys a little, well, I won't take it off screen share, but I'm going to measure my scrap. It looks like it's 4 inches long and or 4 inches wide and 12 inches long. So I'm going to put that on the piece. And then I'm going to go to my page setup right here. And then instead of this being 8.5 inches, I'm going to do 4 inches. And as you can see, I can now tell that my circle would be cut off if I was using the scrap of paper. So I know to move my circle down here. I think that's a super awesome feature of Silhouette Studio because there's no guessing and checking. There's no wondering if you put it in the right place, if it's going to cut or if it's going to be cut off the mat and slice your mat. So make sure you use that. I think it's a super cool feature. So then I'm just going to go ahead and send this. I haven't had to adjust my cut settings at all. So I'm going to stop my screen share. And then while that's cutting, I always like to know where you guys are tuning in from. So if you don't know, Silhouette headquarters is in Utah. So it's a little bit colder right now. It's a little, actually we don't have that much snow, which is a little bit weird. But we're here in Utah, so go ahead and tell me where you guys are tuning in from. And we'll see who is the furthest away. Okay. Texas, Florida is probably winning right now. That's pretty far away from me. Lebanon, okay, I think you're the winner. Panama's pretty far also, but I think Lebanon's the winner. So thank you so much for tuning in. I love the opportunity to teach people from all over the world. I don't usually get that opportunity, so I'm so glad you all decided to join. Okay, so this is what our circle looks like on top of our flower. I think it's kind of fun because it's like opposite. We had the mostly polka dot background and now we have the floral background, so it's a good little contrast. And then for our hearts, let's choose one more. I don't want to use this one because I don't think the contrast will be strong enough. I would say that we should use either these red lines or the floral. So go ahead and drop your choice. Looks like we have lines, floral. Okay, floral. Let's use the floral. I do love these lines though. That's one of my favorite pieces that came with the whole pack. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this down. And I'm actually just going to use a scrap for our hearts because, oh, good thing the pencil, we don't need it anymore because it just rolled off the table. So we actually only need a very small square for our hearts. One thing that we can do when you are using a scrap is kind of choose your part of the paper that you want to use. I think this is a good square. I think this will give us some good variety for our hearts. So I'm just gonna load this onto my mat. It looks like it's 3 inches, basically 3 by 3. It's a little bit bigger, but I'm going to start my screen share and then hop into the software. Oh, I'm already here. And then we're gonna make our mat or our piece of paper 3 by 3. Okay, and then I'm just going to drag these off and let's cut a couple hearts. We might even be able to fit one down here. I'm not sure, maybe not. Okay, so we will have 3 options to pick from for our 2 hearts. So that'll be perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and load this in and then go to my send panel and send it. Okay, So if anybody has any more questions, the last part that we have to do is just assemble the actual piece. So we're really on the tail end of our project. So I'm going to stop the screen share. Okay. Perfect. I'm going to unload those. And part of the reason that I did this a little bit bigger today also was that in the class you would be able to see it. But if yours is a little bit smaller, it'll probably just look more proportional to your cupcake. Okay, so I'm just going to put my mat over here. And then all we have to do now is assemble our pieces. So the first thing that we're going to do is use some double-sided tape to put these together, and we need to add our toothpick in also. So I'm just going to take some tape and put it right here. I like to make, when I'm using like a flower shape or things like that, I just like to make like a square of double-sided tape. Okay. And then I'm going to put this just a little bit up in, not super far, and then I'm just going to put a piece of tape on top of it also. If you only had regular tape, it would be totally 100% doable. You don't need double-sided, but it just makes it a lot easier. Okay, so that is what it looks like once we put our toothpick in. Super cute and nice. And now we're going to add our polka dot circles. And if I was making this not in the class, I would probably do like little pieces all the way around. But since we're kind of trying to go fast, we have plenty of time, but I just wanted to make sure that we can get it all done. So I guess another thing that I am actually curious about in the comments is if you guys are Silhouette users. So if you have a Silhouette machine, I want you to tell me in the chat. And if you don't have a Silhouette machine, I want you to tell me what you thought about the class and the machine, and if it's something you're interested in, what you think about it. So go ahead, and it looks like we do have some Cameo users. Those are awesome. Someone said, I have 3 brands of machines and I use my Silhouette 99% of the time. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Okay. So somebody asked, can you recommend any resources for tutorials? So these Michael's classes have been an awesome opportunity because we've had a lot of tutorials that we've done through the Michael's class. So where this is posted on Michael's YouTube, you're going to be able to find probably, I want to say we've done like 10 Silhouette classes. But aside from that, you can visit our own social media. Oh, sorry, I just want to explain this. I just put the pop dots on the back, and then I'm just going to pop it right in the middle. If you don't have pop dots, it will just be flat, but that's okay. So we have our own YouTube channel and Silhouette, or social media channels. That's actually my job here at Silhouette, is I'm the marketing coordinator, but I actually get the opportunity to run all of the social media channels. So I get to see all of your fun projects that you tag us in. Don't forget to tag us in your projects, because that's like the best part of my job, is to see all of your cool things that you make. And then we have a YouTube channel, Facebook, all the social media sites. And then we also have really awesome affiliates that we share their own projects. Some of them are on here today. I know Kelly, she makes really awesome projects and tutorials, and just some of our other affiliates. I haven't seen who else is on this class today, but they make super awesome tutorials for us. And we also have a blog that is called silhouette101.com. And I actually just posted a tutorial on there yesterday about a cute little Valentine's box. So that's a really good resource also. So it looks like I finished assembling our cupcake topper. Super fun and super cute. I think it actually turned out in really cute Valentine's fashion, kind of, even though it has the blue and the yellow. I think it's a little bit different and kind of fun. So I'm gonna grab the super big cupcake again because our wrapper is super big. And then what I did was I just kind of like put it around it and saw how big I needed to make it. So it looks like I told you when I was making it to not put any hearts on the first ring, but for this case, we don't want any hearts on the second one. We already have the heart there, which is totally fine. It'll just get a tiny, tiny bit covered up, but you'll still be able to see it for the most part. So I'm just gonna put 2 pieces of double-sided tape on one side, and then I'm going to close it on that second scallop right there. That's a big cupcake. It's a very, very big treat. Okay. And then I think, oh, sorry, I need to close it a little bit more. And that's one thing I like about the scalloped one is nobody's going to be able to tell how tight you make it. It seems very adjustable. I'm going to add another piece of tape in here. So I was thinking about Valentine's Day, and something that inspired this project for me is a lot of people don't have a significant other per se, or they are a child or like things like that. And so I was thinking that these cupcakes could be an awesome way to spread kind of some love to all different types of people, not just your significant others. So you could go grab a dozen cupcakes from the bakery or wherever, or you could make them, and then you could make 12 of these cupcake toppers. I'm going to take the cherry off just so it fits better. And you could totally spread the love to so many people, your family, your friends, your coworkers, even if I guess Valentine's Day is on Sunday, so you're not going to be coming into work. But I thought that was a super awesome idea for this treat because everybody loves a good little Valentine's present and also a treat. So this is the final product. I think it turned out super cute. I'm really happy with the design choices for the paper that you guys chose. So if anybody has a few questions, we can take those before the class is over. So let me know if you have any more questions. If you don't, we'll probably just end a little bit early. But it looks like we don't. You all love it, and oh, somebody said, does the design have to be inside the red frame? What is the gray frame? That's a good question. So if it's not in the red, it's not going to cut. I'm going to screen share to show you guys that just real quick. So if I have these selected and they're coming out gray, it's because they're selected as a no cut. And we do not want that. If you do that and you put your piece of paper in, nothing's going to cut. So all you have to do is select them and then click cut, and it'll turn red. So if you want it to cut, it needs to be red. So I hope that answered that question. Let's see. Jose said, if we want to rewatch this class, is there a way to see it again? I mentioned that at the start, but yes, Michael's is recording it and it's going to be posted on their YouTube channel within a couple days, so you'll be able to watch it again. Let's see, I know Olivia asked, she said, please answer a question about how to keep designs together. I missed your question, Olivia, so if you could put it at the bottom of the chat, that would be awesome, just so I can see it one more time. Somebody said, what do I do if the blade isn't going all the way through my cardstock? You can either do another pass on it, cut it 2 times, or you can just go ahead and bump up your settings. I think it was cutting on a 3, and I usually, if it's not cutting through, I just cut it on a 4 or a 5, and then it'll go through for me. So maybe Olivia left because she hasn't dropped her question again. Let's see. So you're going to go to the Silhouette Design Store to download the project, and they're free for right now. And I think that is all of the questions. Oh, Olivia, how to keep hearts on cupcake paper when moving the design. Okay, great idea. So I'm just going to screen share to answer this last question. And I'm I'm gonna move these over, and then I'll just make this the 8.5 by 12 like we had before. Oh, whoops, sorry. Okay, so I drew a rectangle over all of my pieces, and then I just click and drag it. But if you want to group it, all you have to do is click this button up here, Group Selected Shapes. And it just turns it into a group, so those hearts aren't gonna fall off the wrapper. So that is how you do that. Okay. Awesome. Well, I don't think we have any other questions. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope that you have an awesome Valentine's Day and a great new year, and that you do some awesome crafting. Thank you.